Hi everybody, welcome to an Informal Evening with Leo Volont. Yeah, Going Beyond Delusions of Grandeur is really a funny title, isn't it? So let me explain. I'm in my last week or so doing the rewrite, editing, and reading rehearsals for my next formal blog video, Adventures in India. And I really like how it's coming along. But then, last night, after hours, as I began to unwind into my new routine of dance practicing, where my body's really busy, but my mind is free to wander, I got to thinking that many of the exalted feelings I was describing in my Adventures in India, the blog, I saw that one day I might have to face the criticism that I was entertaining delusions of grandeur. Okay, but that got me to wondering about just how much semantic distance exists between the socially acceptable fantasy and what seems like pathological delusion. You see, nobody on God's green earth objects to sexual fantasy. Really, and no loving couple could survive their fourth date unless they recruited fantasy to come in and jack up reality a little bit, right? So where sexuality is propelled by desire, while spirituality certainly isn't the same thing as sex, there is a desire that also propels spirituality forward, isn't there? Yeah, I've been focusing a lot on persona development with my channel. My intention there derives from my understanding that spiritual realization is not partial or limited. That is, it fills out a complete persona. Yeah, I just thought of something. It's, what about multiple personas, Leo? Well, that's a topic for another day. But it's been recognized that yoga is integral, filling out one's entire being. Yeah, perhaps the foremost spiritual philosopher of the 20th century was Sri Aurobindo, 1872 to 1950. And he often spoke in terms of a synthesis of yoga and integral yoga, implying that when yoga is successfully engaged in, it expands its domain and reaches into all facets of our lives. And then there's my old spiritual hero, Swami Vivekananda, intellectually more accessible than the more abstruse Aurobindo, but he says much the same thing, using smaller words. So a spiritual realization will not just give you some new outlook on life, no, but you'll be on to developing a new persona, that is, a new you. Yeah, it made me understand what the Bhagavad Gita meant when it talks of the wise as being the twice born. And the Christians were once familiar with the concept because they used the terminology born again. And if they do have their religious experience at a time of personal crisis and nervous breakdown, then it'd probably be actually true that they'd be coming out of it ready to become something new. Though not guaranteed to be much better than what they were before, considering their limited stock of spiritual influences and their dearth of compelling role models. You see, it's all about one's ideals. That's where all my dream and astral work come into play. In real life, you rarely meet an ideal, but ideals are the stuff that dreams are made of. But only if you make it the object of your dreams to look for and find them. Yeah, in my series, The Material Mechanics of Spirituality, I discussed the enlightenment experience as being initiated by a kind of severe nervous breakdown, where the body is reacting to an overpowering internal dread that the personality is going to get the body killed. You know, it's with the personality so dysfunctional that the body can't understand how it could possibly continue going in such a direction without it leading to doom. The purpose of the breakdown is just to stop all forward momentum into disaster. The second phase of the process is a personality rebuild. Well, back in that video, I spoke of the rebuilds as coming in two different kinds. There's the unstructured rebuilds, which is what happens to people who have spontaneous breakdowns, and the structured rebuilds, which is what monasteries, cults, and military and criminal organizations use after they're able to use deliberate stresses and traumas to precipitate intentional breakdowns. But what I'm trying to do with my channel now goes beyond the material mechanics breakdown and build-up model. I'm putting across the idea that we can take responsibility for our own post-breakdown persona restructuring by identifying our own idealizations. You know, your idealization would be what you would consider to be the perfect you. But there's a problem of not having the breakdown phase for giving us an effective blank slate for our idealization implementation. Well, you see, strong, capable, intelligent, and responsible people like ourselves simply don't have that many breakdowns, do we? It's because we can't help but to figure out ways to cope, and our bodies never lose confidence in our abilities to stay alive. Yeah, being damn near perfect is kind of a blessing and a curse, isn't it? But idealizations can implement without the extreme of a complete nervous breakdown. But understandably, the process would be slower, happening in episodic steps, where events cause epiphanies or minor realizations. Yes, the fully integrated persona would not yet be completely manifest, but the personality would no longer be in balance, but our psychic gravitas would more and more weigh towards merging into the idealization, with the old personality sort of being replaced block by block, as it were. Yeah, if you do go to some real valid spiritual sourcing and find some actual idealization archetype that really does have real psychological foundations that go all the way deep down into the very core bedrock of your soul, and you're not just trying to create some silly, disconnected, private, but powerless universe, well, such authentic idealizations would be attractive and compelling for the personality. And therefore, it would be natural for these idealizations to take root and grow out and blossom into the realization of an idealized persona. Any of my old subscribers have probably noticed by now that Leo Volont is a persona idealization busy with just trying to fill out his own details. Yeah, but there's something y'all need to know. That there is the ancient adage that storytellers have passed down through the ages, going back probably all the way to the conception of language, and that is that the hero of every story is always the fool. Yeah, just consult with any halfway decent tarot card reader and ask about that fool card. It's really not such a bad card, is it? And so we can understand that about Leo, that he's not trying to be a fool, but striving to be a hero. And there's bound to be a lot of, if at first you don't succeed, try agains, right? It'd be inevitable, wouldn't it? Yeah. But what my new video, Adventures in India, deals with are some moments where Leo's persona idealization flared up with several epiphanies. Nothing really big, but just moments where my persona ideal seemed to kick in and take solid hold, and I could sort of feel the electrical connection to the underlying spiritual stock and power that would bolster and energize such an authentic process. But that's where my after-hours thoughts and doubts got active. So okay, let's think about it. Would such experiences be termed to be delusions of grandeur? Or could we say they are grandeur, pure and simple? Yeah, we might have to ask ourselves whether there can ever be some real healthy and permissible grandeur, or do we live in a jaded age where materialism dictates that there can be no rational basis for such an unstable emotional state? And so grandeur must always be considered as being carried along on some false body of delusion. In just about in the same way that true love has been getting a hard reception among materialists too. But really, who among the happy and the healthy hasn't felt the undeniable state of being in true love, right? Heck, on a good day I can be in true love twice before breakfast. So yes, I think that we in the spiritual community need to look more at the concept of grandeur. And we talk about love all the time when trying to describe the ineffable state of God consciousness, but honestly, using that kind of ambiguous terminology, well, it just looks like we can't keep our minds off sex for a minute. So what are we really talking about when we're trying to describe the mystical state? Are we really just talking about love, or do we really mean grandeur? Remember that love requires both subject and object, but in the oneness, there aren't these two separate things, are there? Lover and beloved are still down there groveling in duality, aren't they? But that one perfect thing that we experience in cosmic consciousness, well, aren't we really just throbbing and pulsating with grandeur? Yeah, the core spiritual motion is grandeur, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, enough of this talk. I gotta get back to work on Adventures in India. Oh, it's looking like that thing could go over 90 minutes. Yeah, that's a full-length movie, isn't it? But honestly, I've been busting my butt to bring the narrative style up to literary quality. And I think the storyline is interesting, and the philosophy pithy enough to carry you all through that much time. And there's going to be flower girls. Yeah, man, Flower girls. Who doesn't like flower girls, right? So yeah, I think you're all going to like it. But yeah, I need to get back to work. It's Jesus. Look at the time. I've already blown half the day, man. I got to split. Hey, thanks everybody. It's Leo the slave needs to get back to work before the world stops spinning, right? So yeah. Yeah, thank you everybody. It's how do you turn this thing off again?